Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at the globe today, joining us live in our webinar. Once more, we have more than 200 participants today and registrants for more than 30 countries globally. So thanks for helping us to make this event a big success. I am Dr. Elliot Neto, Ruminant Technical Service Manager for Chromium Industries. I'm our host for this webinar today. And our topic will be heat stress management for dairy cows. And this topic, as most of you know, it's very relevant for our industry because even if you are in Canada or in Russia or in Vietnam or in Brazil, heat stress can become a problem for your cows at some point during the year, right? And the main challenge, I would say, is when you don't recognize that you have a problem. And we're going to have one of the main experts in the industry to discuss this today. It's a pleasure to introduce Mr. Amir Bloch, and he is the VP Nutrition and Research and Development for Project Bar Group. We're happy to discuss the main technologies we have in the industry. And I'm here also to learn with you in this journey today. So without any further ado, welcome, Mr. Amir Bloch. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we're looking forward to learn with you.
Hello to all of you. Very, very nice meeting you. As Elliot said, it's good morning and good noon and good night because it's around the globe. And I will introduce myself. My name is Amir Bloch, VP Nutrition and R&D of Project Bar Group. And today we will speak about heat stress management. About me, I'm Chief Nutritionist and Head of the professional team of Project Bar. I have BSc in Animal Science at the Robert H. Smith Faculty of Agriculture, Food and Environment in Rehovot, Israel. And MSc in Cows Fertility at the Robert H. Smith Faculty of Agriculture, Food and Environment in Rehovot, Israel. I'm a nutritionist for about 20 years in Israel and 10 years around the world. And I'm serving last 11 years as the chief nutrition consultant in one of the largest dairy farms in the world. It's close to 50,000 cows and heifers together in Vietnam and Russia. About Project Bar Group. We are a leading project company in the dairy sector that provides management services to the largest dairy farms, feed mills, and feed centers, both in Israel and worldwide. We have over 30 years of dairy experience, knowledge, and practice, especially in the animal feed sector. We give consulting tailor-made packages to help increasing farmers' profit and productivity. The projects vary from feed centers to project management in Israel, Vietnam, Romania, Thailand, Russia, Azerbaijan, Ghana, Rwanda, and more. About our agenda today, we will speak about global warming, heat stress definition, heat stress science, heat stress impacts, meal components, overall solutions, cooling solutions and management, rumen boluses, nutrition, my baby, energy in protein and fibers, physical structure, special additives, nutrition management, and last and very, very important tips for success. Some of the things that are not written in the book. I'm always telling and saying that the books for nutrition, cow nutrition, were written in North Europe and North America, but many of the countries and your countries are not in the same climate like those regions where the books were written. So always I'm telling my customers in Vietnam that we are writing the book of Vietnam. So many things are alike, but many things are not alike, and every country must write its own book of nutrition and management. And we always need to remember that. About the global warming, it is used, the term used for observes a century scale rise in the average temperature of the Earth's climate system and its related effects. Scientists are more than 95% certain that nearly all global warming is caused by increasing concentration of greenhouse gases and other human-caused emissions. Of course, our cows are a part of it, and we all the time aware of this and speak about the methane emission and how to decrease the emissions. And this is just a slide showing how it goes. In the end, we have rising sea level, damaged corals, warmer oceans. All the global climate is changing. And this is the slide showing the atmospheric CO2. And along the years, the emission of CO2 to the sky is higher and higher. And if we look at this emission of CO2 and other gases, they increase the global temperature, and we can see that as higher is the emission of CO2, as higher the temperature will go up. And it's amazing to know how quickly those temperatures going up. About heat stress. So our cows were exposed to heat stress probably maybe even 100 years ago and 50 years, but two things were different. One thing is that the cows were not producing so much milk, and this milk creates a huge amount of heat. And second thing is the warming of the globe. Altogether, our cows much more exposed to heat stress and suffer more. Heat stress occurs when cows generate and absorb more heat than they can easily get rid of by respiration, sweating, and air blowing by them, wind or fans. Heat stress leads to increased respiration rates, body temperature, sweating, and time standing. So actually, we are really holding a heavy-duty cow. The heart of the cow passes 4,000 liters of blood per hour. The cow skin thickness is half a centimeter. It's 5 times more than ours. The cow is drinking 100 to 180 liters per day, sometimes more. Cow eats about 3 hours. Body temperature of the cow is 38.3. The cow pees 20 liters a day and 40 kilos of manure a day. It's really heavy-duty cow. And what are the signs of the heat stress? So we divide it to the invisible signs and visible signs. So in the visible signs, we have higher body temperature, reduced dry matter intake, reduced rumination, increased respiratory rate, lower milk yield, foaming. You remember in your farm, the cow is standing and moving like a ship in the sea, and a lot of foam is getting out of the mouth, higher standing rate, higher somatic cells. And in the invisible signs section, we have decreased conception rate, lower immunity, increased risk of mastitis disease, increased risk of acidosis, decreased rumen function, increased maintenance energy, and increased risk for lamency. So there are many, many signs for the cow that is suffering from heat stress. What is the impact of all this, all the signs, all the heat stress? So for us, reduced milk, reproduction and fertility performance are going down, milk components are changing, and more. And this is about the milk production during heat stress. So it's a nice slide showing the temperature of the summer of 2020 in Israel. And you can see two spots, one in May and one in September, where the temperature and humidity went high very much. But you can see that in the May session, it was a very high temperature, but for a short time. But in the September occasion, it was maybe lower temperature with higher humidity, but for a much, much prolonged time. And when we look on the impact of this heat stress on the milk production, and we can see here on the graph, you can see the months of the year in the axis, and you can see on the x-axis and on the y-axis, you can see the milk, and you can see clearly that in the two occasions, in 2020, this 2021, there is a big reduction in milk here and here. But the difference is that the May reduction was shorter, and the cow returned to normal production quicker. And in the September occasion, the reduction was much, much higher, and it took for the cow months to get back to the production. And the explanation is one is more humidity, that means the THI was higher in September. And second, because it extended for a much prolonged time, then the cow really suffered, and it took a few months for the cow to return to the normal production. What is happening to the reproduction during heat stress? So we have impaired ovary function, increased open days, and here we have a table that's showing 3 years, 18, 19, and 2020, and the conception rate for heifers, first lactation, and cows. And we can see clearly that in the year of 2020, the conception rate really went down. In 2020 to heifers less than 55, first lactation 36.7, that lower, much lower than the 40 that we've been used to. And also the adult cows reduced below 30. And in Israel, really the year of 2020 was not good in the conception. OFU and many experts tried to understand why and what is the reason, and maybe we have toxins in the feed and many issues, and also this issue of heat stress was raised, and it's really explaining some of the big reduction in the conception rate. in the year 2020 in Israel. Milk components. What happens to the milk components? So intuitionally, you would thought that both protein and fat will go down. And let's see what is happening. This is the milk fat, and we have the year of 2020 and 2021. And you can see in the May occasion, if we look carefully, the milk fat went up, not down. And in the same, in the September occasion, milk fat went up. It's a little bit surprising, but from my experience, I see it a lot, that in the beginning of heat stress, always the fat percent is going up. Maybe some explanation is because the reduction of milk, but let's look about the protein, and then I will speak about my other explanations. If we look at the milk protein, so with milk protein, it's the opposite. It is going down, both in the May event and in September occasion, it was going down. And my explanation to this, or maybe we were discussing it internally in Project Bar nutrition team, that when the heat stress is coming, also the spoilage of the TMR is much weaker. And what are we going to lose during this heat stress? We are going to lose protein and sugars and all the things that the molds and yeast will eat, but the forage is not digested by those microbes. That means maybe we are left with a little bit more fiber, but less nutrients such as the protein and sugar. And this is maybe one of the explanations to why the protein will go down and the fat will go up during heat stress. So what can we do after we face all this disaster for our business or for our cars? What can we do? What are the solutions? And I will tell now from my experience, step by step, what practice we do and what solutions could be taken. So one big solution is cooling, just to help the car to get rid of the extra heat. Nutrition management, herd management. And let's go one by one. About cooling solutions. So I will describe some of the systems that are common in the world, and we'll try to describe advantages and disadvantages to give you some overview. So we have the high pressure fogging that you can see in the pictures. And in this system is a high pressure or small drops of water that absorb the environmental heat. And actually we are cooling the environment, and through cooling the environment, also the car is getting cooled. I will go one by one, and then I will try to compare between the systems. And then you have the intervals of direct water wetting and drying with fans. And in this system, we have three methods. One is cooling the cow in the feed line, intervals and direct water and drying with fan, but in the feed line, as you see in the picture. Second, we can cool them in the milk parlor while being milked or in between the milk sessions. But from my experience, when the herd is getting larger, there is not enough time in the milk parlor to execute cooling session in between the milking session, because too many cows and the milk parlor is working maybe more than 20 hours per day. Then there is need to build a special cooling yard, like we see in the pictures. And we need this special cooling yard in order to make enough cooling for all the herd, also in between the milk sessions. And now the question, the big question, which system is better? The making fogs with small drops or wetting and drying intervals. So my experience is showing that direct wetting will get you much more results, and the cow will be really more relieved and will keep the milk. The issues with direct water spraying on the cow is that also you need to get rid of the liquids, extra water, extra liquids, and you need a good drainage, and not everywhere it's possible. So some farms that I met before, they use the fogs just because they don't have solution what to do with the extra water. But definitely the direct spraying is working better. And just few directions how to operate the cooling system of direct wetting of the cow and then dries them in intervals. So it's a combination of water and ventilation, and we use the evaporation process of the skin of the cow to reduce the body temperature. And what we do on field, so we make 30-second water and 4.3 minutes ventilation. But those are not gold numbers, and we do it, we do it 9 times. But it's not a gold standard, because in humid regions where there's more water in the air, it's much harder to evaporate water to the air. Then some practice that we do in hot places that it will reduce the time of water spraying and increase the drying time with the fan, because the main principle here is that the cow will be completely wet after the water spraying and then completely dry after the fans. This is the way to lose the water and heat. So maybe you should consider 20 seconds and 5 minutes, and it's really like what I said before, every place got its own book. Then you need to learn with your special fans, with your special sprinklers, how many seconds of water and how many minutes of fans. And this is really very important to adjust the system to get the best results. Use sprinklers with big drops, 500 liters per hour, because you want the cow to be wet very fast. And you need, if you're walking in a yard, then you need about 2 square meters per cow in the yard. And we said 9 times 4.3 minutes or 5 minutes. So we need the cow to be at least 35 to 45 minutes in the cooling operation in order to get good cooling. And you can really see by eye, you can see the cow immediately starts to ruminate after starting to get cooling. And then when letting the cow go back to the shed, they really run and eat a lot of TMR. Those cooling operations really enhance the dry matter intake of the cows. And for sure, for those who have rumination tags that now exist in the world, a few companies, and you can see in the rumination tags that the rumination is increased and better. And now there are those 2 systems of cooling. that we less work with, we don't work in Israel. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but the fact is that we are not using them. And one of them is the tunnel ventilation. And the principle behind this is very fast air along the barn to all the time push the hot air outside of the barn, and this way you cool the cows. And there was an interesting trial done in Florida by Dickman et al. In 2020, and he compared sprinklers and fans vs tunnel, and also in the winter and summer. And what he found out that the reduction during summer in milk production was lower while working with tunnel ventilation. That means 3.5% reduction in milk production in summertime with wintertime while working with tunnel, comparing to 5.8% while working with sprinklers and fans. This slide is showing the farms. Every bar is a farm, the farms, and N is in the north of Florida, and S is in the south of Florida, and red is sprinklers and fans, and blue is tunnel. And it's about rectal temperature, and we can really see that in the north side of Florida, the rectal temperature while working with tunnel was lower comparing to sprinklers and fans. While in South Florida, it's not it is the same, like no reduction in body temperature. One of the explanations of the authors to this is the difference in the systems of tunnel ventilation between North Florida and South Florida. In North Florida, they say it's a brand new tunnels that not converted from previous sprinklers and fans or previous fans. They've just been built especially for tunnel ventilation. And the one in the south, they were converted. So they suspect that if you try to convert a barn from, I don't know, sprinklers and fans to tunnel, maybe you will not achieve the best results. Maybe you need to rebuild. Of course, this is a lot of money and many considerations, but this is at least what they have found. About the advantages and disadvantages of tunnel ventilation. So when there is a power shutoff, the barn is getting heated very quickly, and it is dangerous. So you need to be aware of that and to have emergency or emergency to open the side walls of the barn to let the air flow, or an alternative system, because it could be a problem. Also, in the tunnel ventilation, not all the time the air is homogenic. The airflow is homogenic along the tunnel, and you need to be aware of that you will not have dead spots in the shed. And also in the winter, it was mentioned that in the winter time, you need to be aware that there could be problems. The system is, that works very well in the summer could cause problems, especially in cold places. very cold places in the winter, then you need maybe alternative, not such a high air and all this, because you can freeze the cow. So bottom line here is that if you want to use tunnel ventilation, you need to find the experts to that have a lot of experts designing and knowing all the advantages and disadvantages, and also visit farms that using it and learn from their experience to make sure that you constructed this very well. And I think that if you construct it well, you can get the results. I personally, intuitively, as a guy that was born with the cow since he was a child, I prefer open air. Like I feel the claustrophobia of the cows on my skin. So I like open air, open barn. Also, I don't like freestall. I like open barns. Not for sure I'm right. It's more emotionally, but the cow could not speak, cannot tell us what they feel and what do they prefer. We do it for them. We take the decision for them. But there are some you see you have many systems of cooling, and you need to choose, and you need to consider many aspects. One thing is for sure, we need to cool the cow. It will help a lot. And the last one, that not so much in use, but is growing use, is the cross ventilation. And this is, if you compare it to tunnel ventilation, the air is crossing the barn in the narrow narrow phase of the barn, not along the barn, but in this cross ventilation system. So there could be advantages because the flow of air is parallel to the lying of the cow to the freestall. Maybe it is advantage. You can build the barn much wider, more rows. And the airflow in cross ventilation is described as much equal than the tunnel and for a farther distance. Also about the light in the barn. So if the tunnel ventilation suffers from some light issue, which is also important to the cows. So in cross ventilation, the light is spread much equally, but you need to be aware of the fact that cross ventilation would not have an option to natural airflow. In a case of power fall. So you need to have alternative system, because if you have a power fall, as I said before, it could be a big problem with the heating, quick heating of the barn. Okay, so we have the cooling systems, everything is okay, and we always beg our farmers make the system ready in February and March. Don't start to make them ready in April, because if you have a early heat stress, you will lose the yield. And when I mean to be ready, that means to check that all the Ds are really having the water getting out of it. There's a habit of heavy water to make a stone where the water will go out in the Disa. So maybe you need to put it in some vinegar or something, some acid to clean it, to operate it in February to see everything is working, the fans are working, and your cooling system is ready. So our practice is to start to use the system in daytime when the temperature exceeds 20 degrees Celsius, and we still not cool at night time. But when the night time exceed also 20, we start to make also night cooling sessions. Some people, they make even 2 cooling sessions in night time, because one thing is at 6 o'clock morning, the cows will be in reduced temperature, both if you cool in the night or not cool in the night. But the big question, how will they pass the night? Will they pass some of the night with higher temperature that will go down slowly, or will they go down to temperature 38.5 in 9 o'clock night and keep it until 6 o'clock? So it's a big difference. So it's better to have 38.5 along all night and not let the cow suffer from heat stress when with temperature going slowly hour by hour. And now I want to speak about some interesting tool that we use in order to define if the cow is in heat stress or not. And this is a rumen boluses. You insert those boluses to the rumen of the cow, like you insert the magnet. And this system allows you to monitor your cow temperature 24/7. And this is active for at least 4 years. And it's very, very precious information about the situation of your cow. And people in Israel, they use this system to adjust their cooling system, to know when to make cooling sessions. And maybe some of them even move milking session only to allow the cows to get better cooling. And now you see a graph of 3 groups along the day from midnight to the next midnight. And we put our threshold 39.5 degrees Celsius, that we don't want the cow to go above, but we can always argue about this threshold. Someone could decide a little bit different, but at least you have some thresholds that you are aware of it and taking actions. And this is those graphs are corrected and very much correlated to a rectal thermometer. And also you have to know when you use boluses. So every time the cow is drinking water, there is a drop in temperature to maybe 33, 34 degrees. But you don't see those drops in the graph because we corrected them with equations, and then we compared this corrected graph to the rectal thermometer, and we find a very good correlation. But if somebody wants to use some boluses at some graph to know about the drinking habit, it's also very important because it gives a lot of information about the drinking habits of the cows, and very important around the year and in the summer. And you can see the spots where the temperature exceeds the threshold in 2 o'clock morning and maybe 3 or 2 o'clock afternoon. And let's see when where the cooling session done in this farm. The one cooling session is here, and you see there is a drop in temperature afterwards, and another cooling here. And the third one, you can see 5 o'clock. And if we look carefully, we see that the last cooling here was done too late, after the cow peaked above the threshold. That means it's better to add another cooling sessions around 2 o'clock, and really when the farm added one more cooling session along the day, she got better results. And as I said, some of the farms, they even move milking sessions to another hours to make sure the cows are getting cooled correctly. And now we go to the nutrition section. I will speak to you about my experience and what I do around the world, which nutritional solution I give to heat stress. And this is my baby, and let's start to speak about it. We will speak about energy, protein, and fibers. We will speak about decadent minerals. We will speak about physical structure. We will speak about special additives, or we can call them just additives, maybe special, yes, I special, and okay, additives. And let us begin. What do I do while formulating about energy, protein, and fibers in the summertime, in the heat stress period? So my practice, and many others in the world, they do the practice, I add more fat, more sugar, more soluble fibers, and less starch, because this starch could cause acidosis. And also the heat stress is causing acidosis, so you need less starch during summertime. Also, I use less protein because the protein is making internal heat of the cow. And, anyways, the cow is producing a little bit less milk, so no needs so much protein. So I don't want to cause internal heat. I use high quality fibers, the best, to keep the best silage and hay to the summertime. And another practice that I do, I use primary cell wall instead of hay and silage. That means I can use soybean hulls and citrus pulp and sugar beet pulp and gluten feed and DDGS only. And we had nice trials in Israel showing that if you go down in fiber and replace them with a primary cell wall, you get sometimes better results. Anything must be done carefully. You have to look that you don't go too much down in fibers and the cow is ruminating well, but not always a higher, from my experience, higher forage diet not always is causing less acidosis. We will speak about it in the sorting section, so not always, I will repeat it, not always a higher forage diet is causing less acidosis. Sometimes yes, sometimes not, and you need to remember it. About the decad, yeah, it's not written correctly, sorry, apologize for this. About the decad minerals and the buffers, we know that positive decad cation anion difference is giving us benefits in metabolic pH and also for milk and more flow of liquids to make milk. But in the summertime, this issue is getting bigger because the cows are losing much more sodium and potassium via sweating. That means the decad could go down. That is why in the summertime we should add sodium and potassium to the cows to have enough taking care also of what they lose in the sweating. And also we increase the buffers, not just for the sodium and potassium, also for the acidosis, rumen acidosis issue. Also think about it that if the dry matter intake is going down, so also the cow is now not eating the same amount of buffer or minerals. So it's always a consideration, because if the cow is eating, I don't know, 27 kilogram dry matter in the winter time and reducing to 23 in the summertime, that means she's eating less minerals. So we always think what is the best solution, because we want for one side the cow not to be missing the minerals, but from the other hand we want a very condensed energy diet. So if we add buffers, it makes the diet less condensed. But my practice is anyway to increase a little bit the minerals and buffers, to increase in the summertime, so the cow will have enough. Now about the physical structure and the sorting issue. So we need fine chopping along all the year, but in the summertime, we need to look very carefully. And this is why I really recommend to run the practices of Penn State University box that you see on the right side, and manure wash that you can see on the left side. In the Penn State, you can see the holes of the sieves are getting smaller and smaller from up to the bottom, or from here in the picture from left to right. And you don't want to have too much particles on the upper sieve, and on the other hand, not to have too many particles on the bottom one. That is not too much concentrate and not too much forage, but you need to have enough effective fiber. And as a recommendation, and we can also give you a recommendation, what spread of percents along the sieves you need. And the same with the manure wash system, that you don't want to find too many, as in the left side, too many undigested parts, and you don't want to find too many grains in the end of the digestion system. You don't want too many grains to go in the manure. So those things really help you. I know it takes time to deal with them, and you need to take stuff to test, but whenever we use this practice and test, we are getting better results. And we have some farms that are really doing a lot of those tests around the world, and we really increase the results in those farms. And as I said, the issue of primary cell wall instead of hay and silage, soybean hull, gluten feed, and more is also important in this physical structure that will help the summertime. About the additives, so we will speak about yeasts, and we will speak about niacin and other blood vessels expanders, and we will speak about chromium, antioxidants, taste and odor, and additives that are increasing the fat digestibility. We will begin with the yeast. So it's well known that yeast, while using yeast, you will have improved fiber digestibility, more volatile fatty acids. Dry matter intake, I put it in a question mark, because many trials in the world with yeast, some they show increasing dry matter intake, Some are showing decreased. We not always know the reason, but we need to say it. The live yeast also have the capacity of oxygen consumption, and I read a nice article that showing using yeast cultures, they got lower body temperature, reduction in respiratory rate, it's interesting, of the cow, more sweating of the cow, and this is maybe could be explained that they found while using yeast culture more niacin in the blood, and this was interesting for me to read. Niacin and the blood vessel expanders and body temperature regulation. So many farms are using niacin. The niacin doing many things, but also helping to expand blood vessels and let the cow get rid of more heat. And also another products in the world, some they use red chili to regulate the body temperature and stimulate salivation and ingestion. And niacin is also called vitamin B3. So there are few additives in the world that claim to help in getting rid of heat via blood vessels, and I use some of them. I think overall they work, help. Chromium. So chromium also is plays important role in the cow's metabolism, and especially in heat stress. And you have for example, the chemtrace, chromium, propionate of chemin that could help in this case. And you can see the atom of chromium. And what is the chromium doing? Increase insulin sensitivity and glucose utilization. It works on the receptors to insulin. Also in human, there are many researches about this sensitivity of glucose with chromium, and it works. It improves dry matter intake in heat-stressed cows, and it minimizes the negative effect of the stress response by consistently decreasing serum cortisol during stressful period for cattle. So also I use in many farms of that I give consulting, I use chromium. Antioxidants, for example, there are additives containing green tea that are neutralizing the free radicals, and especially the ones produced by heat stress. When there is heat stress condition, more free radicals are produced, and you need strong antioxidants to defeat them with the green tea. And there are also additives that using some component of the grapes that are also very strong antioxidants, and this could also help. Taste and odor. So we can see about the pictures here, but it's also very important. And also I use in some farms taste and odor products that really take away the smell of the spoilage of the DMR, and really let the cow want to eat more. And in one of the warehouses, in one of the big farms that I consult to, we saw that the workers are really staying a long time in the shed of the additives, in the warehouse of the additives, and then we figure out, because when they get out, they really have a good smell of perfume because of one of the nice additives. And you can really go and smell the TMR and see it. It's really inviting to eat. It's not that I always eat the TMR of the cows, but sometimes I taste. I eat many of the raw materials of the cow just to know what is the taste, and sometimes the TMR, but this smell is really promising. And the issue of fat, we need to think a lot about the fat. I said before that during heat stress, we use a lot, we increase the fat, the bypass fat. This energies that coming from the fat would not cause acidosis, but we use sometimes enormous amounts of fat, sometimes more than 1 kilogram per cow. We altogether fat, saturated fatty acids with calcium fatty acid, altogether more than 1 kilogram. And, it's a lot. So there are additives in the world that helping to the intestine to absorb more fats, increasing the intestinal digestibility of fat, such as lysoforte of cumin, that they make a conversion of lecithin to lysolecithin, and this way they have like emulsifiers that is loving fat and water, and this improve the absorption of the fat. So you can either utilize your fat in a better way or use less and have with the same impact, and then you have more space for other parameters, other values for more nutrition in the diet. So it's a nice solution. And also I made additives using spices to enhance the lipase secretion from the pancreas. Also helps the digestibility of fat. So this is something to consider. And now we finish the additive section and we go to the nutrition management, which is not less important, maybe more important. Management is always, I think, more important than buying this additive or the other additive, because the management is the basic. So during summertime, you need more feed distributions per day. And the timing of feed distribution is important. Sometimes farms are saying we have 3 distributions per day, but have all the 3 distribution per day from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock morning, because it's easier with the time of the workers. But this is not, I don't call this a 3 timing per day. It's of course, it takes manpower and you need to work 24 around the hours around the day, but it's better to serve the feed maybe 3 times or 4 times per day to the same group, and maybe give it at the cooler hours, maybe from 6 o'clock evening to 8-10 morning. So the cow will eat the fresh TMR in the cool hours. More feed pushing in feed line. There is no limit to how many times you can push the feed. Even 12 times per day or 15 times, it will give you the benefit. It will avoid sorting. Preservatives, I recommend and use a lot preservative. The TMR is starting to spoil in the moment you prepare it. Also in the winter, and particularly in the summertime. So I really recommend using preservatives such as propionic acid, and I will speak about this more in the tip section, my attitude about preservative, but it's really important. It really preserves your feed, and we tried, in our farms, and we see that when we use preservatives, sometimes we get more protein content because the preservative avoid of the molds and yeast and bacteria to eat our precious protein and energy. So it's very important. And now I have feed centers in Israel that give preservative also in winter, and we see better results. Results are more uniform. Silage inoculants, the issue here is to have higher quality silage and also shelf life of the silage. So it's very important to have a good silage with a long shelf life, because everything here is a production. The takeout phase of the silage is important all around the year, but particularly in the hot season. Don't leave a pile of open silage 10 hours in the pit, because it will spoil. You need to work with a very straight wall of the silage and take the silage only very near to when you need to load the wagon, the mixer, because the spoilage is starting immediately after the air is coming. And also not to come with a big shovel tractor and break half of the silage in order to take out, I don't know, 2 tons. You need to walk gently. In Vietnam, for example, they walk with excavators. The small spoons, they treat very nice the wall of the silage, and you don't have quality issues. So we spoke about the preservatives, the shelf life in TMR, also in silage. And in silage, you want a higher shelf life, and you consider how to do it with inoculant of bacteria that is helping to have more acetic and more acetic acid, and this way to preserve, or you consider if to just to take preservative that is focused to the silage. There's no one answer. You need to also to check the price. Like for example, Cayman, they have the silage saver. For silage, it's a chemical, and it's really discussion. I am not sure what is the best for your silage, the bacteria inoculant or the chemical acids. Herd management, okay. Now, very important, clean drinking water all the time, that the cow will have enough drinking water and clean all the time, and enough place, maybe 25 centimeters of water troughs per cow. Also, keep drinking water at milk parlor. They stay a lot of this parlor, so it's important. Also in the cooling yard, let the cow drink. And also along the walking trail, like you see in the pictures, the walking trail. Sometimes they spend half an hour in the walking trail and it's hot and they need to drink. And also use fans in the lying yards without water, but just to make the bedding dry. It's very important, and also to move the air to the cow all the time. And also fans in the milk parlor, I mean, where the cow are milked, not in the waiting yard of the milk parlor. It's for the cows and for the workers. But it's also important because it's a hot spot. take away the hot air also inside the milk parlor. And shading, like we see in the shading of the trails, and when farmers make shade over the walking trails, they really benefit from it. It's very important. And now we got to the section that I said before. Maybe it's not written in the books, but it's tips for success. It's from my experience and from the experience of many others. And also you for sure have experience around the globe, and I would be happy to hear from your experience, because together we learn more. We write the books around the globes together, the farmers and us. And it's important. First of all, the basics, as we said. You need to have around the year enough feeding, water, and lying space, especially in the summer. This is a space, and drinking water and feeding is not something you do by additive or by cooling. Or you first of all need to have them and clean the feed line every day. This is most important. Very important point. Start inseminating earlier, before summer. If some cow, I'm speaking about our half of the globe, because maybe Australia and New Zealand is the opposite, but our example in the north part of the globe. So if a cow is calving, I don't know, January or February, you cannot say, okay, let the cow rest for the body condition and inseminate only in 4 months, because if you inseminate in 4 months, you get to the summer, to June, and then you can harm your fertility. So when a cow is calving in the winter, so take care of inseminating sometimes even after 60 days if she's cycling well. Don't wait, because you can lose the cow. The places, the tropical places that you can have a lot of rain during summertime. In Israel, we have, can say, 0 rain during summertime, but in Vietnam, we have a lot of rain during summertime. And this causes a lot of problems, because the rain could enter the bedding and make it very, very wet, and cause many problems like leg problems and mastitis. And it's very hard to dry it. So for a solution, sometimes people, they put just a wall, just a door, big doors. But when you put a permanent big door, there's no airflow. And then you don't solve the issue. Maybe you don't have water in the barn, but you have your THI inside the barn is increasing. So our partners in Israel, in the Globe Herman company, also they have the practice of installing automatic curtains. You can put automatic curtains like in the poultry house, and then also with sensors. For rain, it can open, shut, and open the barn. When no rain, let it be open and dry and airflow. When the rain is coming, close it, so you will not suffer of wet bedding. Monitor your rumination and acidosis status, and there are tools in the world, like we said. Our boluses that we described before is not only for temperatures, are also for pH. And so you could consider installing some percent, maybe 5% of your head with pH bolus to know what is the pH. You have rumination tags, respiration tags. You have enough tools today in the world to monitor your rumination and acidosis and to react by nutrition. My dream is to monitor water consumption. I beg my team to give me solution how to measure water easily, water consumption in our farm, because it's very important, and it reflects very much what is happening to the cow, and you can react very quickly if some problem with the water. And it should not be so expensive. Monitor ambient temperature and humidity. It's better you have some climate station in your farm, not to rely on external data. And calculate THI on your farm, inside the barn and outside the barn. Important. Monitor body temperature. So one solution we said about the bolus, but you can do it by rectal. Take just a sample of cows and know what is your condition. And before cooling session, after cooling session, you know, to know that you execute it well. Rubber mattresses for legs, very important. In the summertime, when you cool the cow and spray so much water on them in the head, there's a lot of water going to the hoofs, and the hoof are getting softer, and they could crack and wounded and get lame issues easily. So rubber mattresses are very important. I always recommend, I know it's expensive, but if you don't do it from the beginning, my experience that you lose production. As we said, keep the best forage for summer. Very important. Start cooling operation gradually, just before the hot summer. And also stop cooling gradually after the hot summer, because we saw people that are starting late, they suffer from production reduction. And also people that are stopping early. Sometimes you get rid of, you want to get rid out of it, you need workers and issues, and you stop it when it starts to be cool. I don't know, in mid-September or beginning of October in Israel, but there will be some very hard heat stress also in beginning of November or half October. Then you see farms that already stopped the cooling, they have production issues. And to combine two systems or two places. My experience is showing that cooling at parlour or special yard as well as feed line is giving a better solution, and then the cows is 24 hours, it never raise the body temperature, and you got better results. The cows are much comfortable. Then, as I said, if there's an issue with the water, all this spraying of water, because you need to get rid of the water, of the extra water, and not easy. And as I promised you that I will speak about the preservatives. So my recommendation is to use several kinds of acids to defeat also wild yeast and bacteria, because many of the preservatives, they use only propionic, but propionic works only against molds, but many of our problems are caused by the wild yeast and bacteria. So, for example, there are products in the world, silage saver of Chemin is one of them, but there are others that using several acids like formic that will help in also wild bacteria and yeast, benzoic acid, wild yeast and bacteria, acetic acid that will work mold against molds, wild yeast and bacteria. And of course, to keep the old propionic one, that is very good against molds. So altogether, you will have a better product. Always, for sure, check the price and the inclusion rate. And big tip. So making an operation or a plan or installing the system or a system is not enough. You need to make sure that it works. Like you see in this film that they have the system, but the water are not really getting out of them, and there's some issue with the pressure, and then the cooling doesn't work well. So always learn how to monitor your protocol. You need first to write a good protocol for herd management and farm management and heat stress management. And one of the biggest things is how to control that your protocol is really executed. It's very important. And important to remember that if in the Greek myth, all the world is only Atlas is holding, in our case, it's not only one factor that's holding the cow. It's many factors that all together will help the cow. The herd management, nutrition, cooling, additives, more nutrition management. And if you execute those factors correctly, then you end up in a much happier cows. And in the end, this happier cow will give more money to your pocket as a farmer. So thank you very much for your kind listening, and probably you have some questions, and the questions will be answered in the discussion section that will start right after now, managed by Dr. Elliot Neto. So thank you again for joining me and us and listening to us. I was Amir Bloch, and my contact is listed here, and feel free to contact with any question or any new idea or anything you want to teach me. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Amir. It's been a great lecture and a great pleasure to learn with you. We can see you are very passionate about this subject and has a lot of information to bring to us. And so we have a lot of questions. I try to answer most of them. And as I put in the chat box, if any questions are unanswered, you can reach out to me or to Amir. We're going to be more than happy to address these questions for you. So the first one we have here from the participants, Amir, just tell us a bit more about the rumen bolus. Do you recommend any brands? What is your experience in the field? And do you have an idea about the price?
Yes. We have a collaboration with Smackstack in Austria. So this is the one we know. I know there are other brands in the world. About the price, I think it's our guys, maybe Nissan could tell about around what is the price of the bolus. And it's really a good tool. You don't need to put for all herd. You can only put it in 10% of your cows. And if you want to save money, you can only put it in your high-yielding cows, your fresh cows and high-yielding pans. Then you get a very good picture about behavior and body temperature of your cows. And if you include also pH monitors, some of them will be with the pH. It's more expensive with the pH. But if you have, I don't know, 1% of the herd with the pH in the right timing after calving, you will have a good good knowledge about your herd.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We have some people asking here about the name. Can you repeat the name of the company again, Amir, please?
The name of
The company that you.
Smackstack.
Okay, Smackstack.
Smackstack, Austria. Nissan could help you with this.
Yeah, Nissan, if you can type please in the chat box, Nissan, what's the website, that will also help the people here in this conversation. Thank you. Let's move on for the next question here. Do you have any experience in the field with betaine for heat stress management for the cows?
The answer is easy, no.
Okay. Do you?
I was offered a few times, but not yet tried.
Okay.
But I will learn about it.
Good, good. Other question we have here, Amir. When we are spraying water for the cooling purposes for the cows, have you seen in the fields people putting any additives in that water? So when you're spraying, you are also killing airborne bacteria. Is there any technology like this or having experience?
I never heard or met, but it sounds very interesting. It sounds interesting idea, and my wheels in the brain are starting to work. Okay, it's to kill the insects like the flies, or
yeah, probably to also, you know, combat mastitis or kill any like bacteria and the bedding or bacteria in the air, you know, combat some respiratory diseases, stuff like this.
I never heard, but it's very interesting idea.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Let me see another question that we have here. What should be the air speeds in meters per second to be for the cows to optimize cooling?
We are speaking all the time to exceed the 2.5 meters per hour.
Okay.
Meters per hour. To exceed 2.5 meters per hour, you need a very speedy air in order to dry the cow quickly and evaporate the water to the air. And there's always consideration, what kind of fans should I use? Because the older ones are smaller and they have really fast air, but they are also very expensive for electricity consumption. And you have the new brands of that, maybe you saw something in the picture of the helicopter ones, that they are not so speedy, but they are much cheaper in electricity consumption. So you really need to call some cooling expert and to define your fans and the speed, but it should be high speed.
Okay, thank you. Another question here we have, it's, do you have an experience with solar panels and how they would relate to cooling system for the cows? I mean, how they would offset the cost of electricity, and have you seen that grow in the field?
Yeah, many farmers in Israel, they put solar boards on the roofs of the barns. Usually we don't see a connection between those and heat stress issue. Just more money to the farm, but you need to check very well that there is this leading of electricity to the earth. I don't remember now the name in English of this cable that taking the third cable that taking the electricity to the earth. So because of the corrosion, high corrosion around the dairy farm, sometimes this leading of electricity to the earth is damaged because those lines run on corrosive, and then the cows begin to be the place to send the electrons. We met 1 or 2 farms like that, and you have to manage it. First of all, it's recommended because if you can earn more money to the farm or run your farm by your own solar board, it's good. Green electricity, but you need to maintain the system and check all the time that all the connections are well and no dangerous electron flow to the cow. Because we saw a farm having enormous somatic cells, 400, 450 getting fines, and they don't realize what is the issue. And then 1 week, the system was stopped for just routine maintenance. And in this week, the somatic cells went dramatically down. And then they figured out the problem is the solar. It's a solar system, and they corrected it, fixed it.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick reminder here, Nissan, I can see here that you share the name of the company is MaxTech, but can you please resend the message and share with everyone in this webinar, please? I think you shared only privately. Thank you. And Amir, just continue the conversation about the wind speed for optimization of cooling. Just to clarify one point here, John is asking, is it 2.5 meters per hour or 2.5 kilometers per hour?
Meters.
Okay.
Sorry, meters per second, 2.5 meters per second. Sorry. Sorry, 2.5 meters per second, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, John.
No, perfect. We have another question here. In low input systems, it's a participant asking about his customers in Indonesia, where installing, cooling systems or making infrastructure is very expensive. What is the best nutrition strategy? Something easy to implement in the fields. And in that specific case, do you recommend also chemtrace chromium for the cows?
Yes. So if cannot install a cooling system, so I recommend all the additives that I listed here. I use it many times in the same diet, because my approach is not that I have a budget for additives. My approach is that the cow needs the help, and he needs it from many angles, not from only one angle. So I use many, and to use chromium, I recommend either if you operate the cooling system, either if you don't operate. We will always help you with the glucose issue and receptors, insulin, and cortisol issue. So it's anyway, it's recommended. And if you can cool the cow in a cheap way, it's always recommended. If it's a problem with the water, so also fans are only fans. The very speedy fans is more than nothing. So you should consider if it's expensive, and yeah, for the nutrition, all the things I described, they will always help. And if you don't have cooling, those additives such as Niacin and the other one that expand blood vessels with the red chili or whatever, so they will help more. also the companies that sell the red chili and other companies, they say if you have a good cooling system, maybe our product will work less. But if you don't operate a cooling system, it will work better. And I just met with the professors in the Vulcani Center in Israel, our Institute for Agricultural Research. I met them recently, and we spoke about one of the additives to expand blood vessels. So they made this trial twice, maybe 2 years ago, but the cooling systems were operated very good. So in this trial, they found out that the additives only reduce the body temperature of the cow, which is important, but not helped with having more milk production. But the second trial, they figured out that maybe we make hard time to the cows. They stopped the cooling. They made hard time to the cow. And in this case, these additives that only, it's not only, but reduce temperature without increasing the milk. In this case, it was increasing milk volumes. That means there are some additives that could help you. And of course, the basic of your TMR or your feed must be clean of bacteria, clean of yeast, not spoiled, smelling well, chopped well, mixed well, in the good particles. The cow could not sort, give enough feed, push. As I said, then even with no cooling, you will get more. Take care of your water supply. I saw in small farms, in small farms in South Vietnam, I saw restricted water, because they don't have a flowing water system, only they fill the water 2 or 3 times a day, then there's not enough water to the cows. So try to have a flowing water trough system, or if you cannot have a flowing, ask your workers, or if you are a family business, you and your sons and daughters fill as many times as possible water, and then you get better results. You can increase your production in very small budget.
Thanks, Amir. So we got the message here. Everyone can see on the chat here. Nissan just sent the link, the website for the bolus company that Project Bar has been working with. We're gonna limit this webinar in 1 hour 45 minutes, and then we're gonna have time for a few more questions, and once more address any questions that have been unanswered to myself and Amir. So let's move on for the next question here. It's a question from Alexander. We all understand that the cooling and ventilation system is the best way that we can use to prevent heat stress. However, when heat stress has already happened, what should we do? Which actions should be done? Is the nutrition need to be adjusted accordingly to when the heat stress happened? And following up from that question from John, what are the best options to recover from heat stress, Amir? I think it's because the reason is a lot of people, they just they miss that the cows were stressed, and then they try to fix a problem which has already been affecting the herd as a whole.
So the answer is, it's not it's very hard to react when you have a very hard heat stress and you are not ready. This is why I say you have to start gradually to make the cooling session, and also the summer diets. You have to start them if your region is having the summer from, I don't know, April to September. You need to start from March to October. All in Vietnam, for example, we announced that summer is from March to October. and we start earlier and stops later, because in the middle of the heat stress it's much harder to react. You need to start then, not to let the cow get inside this hypothermia case and all this. You have to start earlier. Of course, preservative, start if you don't want to give preservative in the winter as well, because it's a money issue, then start the preservative early in March in the north side of the globe, and stop it only on beginning of November, and all the things with more potassium, more sodium, more minerals, buffers. Start it early and really keep the best forage for the summertime. Then you have better, and also make more cooling session. Like if you start 3 times per day only in the milk sessions, in the high season move to maybe 7 times or 8 times per day cooling, and install cooling system also in the feed line, so you don't face such a big reduction.
Yeah. Thanks, Amir. And just one of the final reminders here. It's been very, very productive webinar. There's a lot of questions here, and in a week time, everyone who registered for the webinar will get 2 links. One link for this, for the heat stress, and the other link for the webinar we did last week on robotic milking. So the last 2 questions, Amir, before we finalize this webinar here. Any ideas or recommendations about the drinking water temperature?
Yes. I cannot give numbers, but I know that drinking water is important. It's better to have it 10 or 15 degrees all around the year, because when it's too cold, the cow will drink less. In the cool places like our farm in Romania, for example, we fight all the time against freezing and not enough water. And the best is to use just heated water troughs or isolated water troughs. There are in the world. And always when what I see people, they make a big project. So in the end, they don't have money for the tails. The tails is like to put the cooling system, or the tail is to put isolated or heated water troughs, and then they suffer. Or the tail is to put the mattress on the floor. But the cow, what is very nice with the cow, she always returns you back what you give to her. Always, the cow. So what you put on the cow, you get twice. This is my experience. Don't save money on the welfare and the health of the cow, and you get it back. And it's very important, because the water is very, very important. And we have a discussion in one of the farms that they have, I don't know, 100 and something liters per cow drinking in this winter. But when it's getting cooler during the winter, then it goes 20 liters less. The cow are drinking 87 only, 20 liters less. And this is and then it's accompanied with reduction in milk production. Then I think thermo-naturalized water troughs is a must. I don't know what, economically it could be expensive, but you need to put it in your budget. I always say, if you want to have, I don't know, 5,000 cows herd, or 100 cows, or 40, so you can start with 5% or 10% less less cows, but with the best conditions, you will get more. So this is my approach.
Very good, very good. Thanks, Amir. And for the sake of time, we're gonna go for the last question now. And once more, thanks everyone for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to bring to you a very, very comprehensive webinar on heat stress of management. And if you have unanswered questions, once more, you have Amir's email or my email in the chat, elliot.neto@chemi.com, and you're more than welcome to send the questions to us. So the last question, Amir, and I think it's a very interesting question, talking about animal breeding and genetics. Any idea on cow genetics? Can we select for heat tolerance without compromising performance? And I think that question is very interesting because you mentioned in your webinar about global warming or climate change, however you wanna call it. And I think for the future, you know, that topic will become more and more relevant every time. So any idea about selecting the cows for heat tolerance?
Yeah, we were thinking about this a lot. For sure, for example, the Jerseys, they get along better with the heat, but they don't make so much milk like the Holsteins. But I think what will happen is a selection, like in Israel, it's a 60 years or 70 years of selection. So who will stay in the herd? Anyway, in intensive farming, you sell 30% of the cows every year, or 20%. So who will stay in the herd? The cows who will stay in the herd are the commando ones, who can really resist the heat stress. So for sure, you want to keep this genetic in your herd, the one who produced 60 liters in August in Vietnam or Indonesia or Malaysia. So, if you want to make it quicker, so you can find your commando cows, and you can make embryo transfer, local one, not bring genetic embryo transfer from out of the country. Choose your best cows and make embryo transfer with them, and then you proceed very quickly. But you need to know the embryo transfer is need to be it's a hard task, but it can be done. You need to be very accurate and to work very high quality and to work well, and then you get results. So this is one thought. But if you sort the cow to I don't know, milk volume or milk volume plus components, then you get genetic selection.
Yeah. Thanks everyone, Amir, once more. We're having a lot of people saying hello to you here from Ethiopia, Italy, Spain, Vietnam, Malaysia, Russia, a lot of different countries here. I think for the registration, we got more than 30 different countries. And people are saying they're happy with the information. And again, thanks everyone for joining us, and keep informed on our LinkedIn channels. Myself, it's Dr. Elliot Neto, and with Amir Bloch, it's been a pleasure to join you today for the webinar Heat Stress Management. So looking forward to bring more quality information next time. Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you.
Okay, have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.